Hi everyone, welcome back to the Property Finance Podcast, and today I want to talk about sequencing, and many people will hear that and think, what the hell is he talking about? And what I want to talk about is how you sequence your finance. So almost creating, and funny enough, this is the title of one of my talks, but almost creating the property finance roadmap of this is how the entire roadmap of our project, our finance is going to look. So what I mean by that is, for example, we've got a client at the moment who is purchasing a property to convert into an HMO. He wants to convert it into an 8-bed, doesn't have planning for that yet. However, he's purchased it at auction, which means that he has to purchase the property within the next 28 days. That is not long enough to get planning. So we then have to start thinking about, well, how do we sequence this finance? So in this scenario, we've got to look at a bridging loan. Then we've got to move it into development finance once he gets planning. We've then got to move that development finance into a long-term hold. So there is a sequence involved in moving it from product A, B, C. However, as each project comes along, there are little deviations that you can make to that. So for example, on this project, one of the deviations is rather than a bridge day one, we know he can do a 6-bed without having to go and get planning permission or anything like that. So one of the things that we could do is we could go straight in for development finance. And actually what we do is we say to the lender, right, here are the numbers based on a 6-bed HMO. So I think in this example, the GDV was 450 for a 6-bed. Right, based on a 6-bed, GDV is 450. Lend whatever you can against that. He'll then do the purchase and then he'll start the works, because essentially the commencement works are the same no matter whether he's doing a 6-bed, an 8-bed, whatever, because he's still got to do a strip out and everything else. And that will take probably 4 to 6 weeks. So in that scenario, he's got the option of a bridge, dev, refinance, or he's got the option of dev and then refinance. If he goes down the route of dev and refinance, he cuts out the potential of an entire product up front. The other thing as well is if he goes in for dev and then refinance, so this sort of sequence B, if you like, he's also got the opportunity when he gets planning, is he could look at that development finance and say, right, okay, I've got 150 grand's worth of works here, but to do an 8-bed, I need 200 grand's worth of works. Well, one of the things he could do with the development lender is actually sit down and say, look, you've offered me 150. That's great. I'm going to take 150. I'm going to start doing the works on the 6-bed. But at the point I get planning permission, would you lend me a further 50 grand to then enable me to go and do the works for the 8-bed? And most lenders will do that. Some don't like it. There's a couple of lenders who we've had come back on it and have said, look, we're lending on this. This is what we want to lend on, i.e. the 6-bed. We don't really then want to have to change it, go back through credit or do anything like that. So we only really want to lend on this 6-bed and that's it. Other lenders are like, yeah, not a problem. We'll lend on the 6-bed. If he then gets planning for the 8-bed, great, because the GDV then shoots up to 600 grand. We're then in a better position from our loan to value perspectives. So actually, yeah, we're happy to then lend a further 50 grand. And what they'll do is up front, they'll actually look at the valuation being done based on what it's worth now, what it's going to be worth as a 6-bed, and what it'll be worth as an 8-bed as well. Because it saves time, because if you have to go through the bridge valuation, then you have to go through a dev valuation, then you have to go through another dev valuation to then see what the 8-bed's going to be. It's so many fees. So it's all about sequencing correctly to essentially enable you to save as much money as possible and put as little money into the deal as possible. Where sequencing also comes into effect is potentially if you're looking at doing sort of small refurbs. One of the things that a lot of people look at is they'll say, oh, well, I want to take a buy-to-let mortgage to do the refurb. And it's like, well, in theory, you could take a buy-to-let on a refurb, but you would have to get the works done within 90 days. It would have to be tenanted within 90 days. And some lenders also want it tenanted within 30 to 60 days. So you have to bear in mind that some lenders will even constrict that timescale. But in theory, you could put it onto a buy-to-let, do the refurb, and then refinance to another buy-to-let. So there's a sequence that you can do there. However, what most people tend to do is go in for bridge/refurb finance and then into refinancing onto a buy-to-let mortgage. And then when it comes to sequencing your dev loans, this is where potentially you sort of extend the sequence even further, which is you may take an option agreement. So there's no financing involved there, but this is kind of the first part of the sequence of the deal. So you may take an option agreement, then you might take a bridge to purchase that land once you've got planning permission and everything else. You might then, whilst you're on the bridge, do all your pre-commencements. You may then move to development finance. So at that point, you then do the development. You then may move into a development exit. And then at that point, if some of the properties haven't sold, you then might move into a buy-to-let. So there's potentially a sequence of 3, 4, 5 different products there as well. And it's all about sitting down early with a broker, with lenders, XYZ, and actually working out, right, okay, what is the sequence? How can I deviate from it as well? Because it's all well and good having this sequence laid out and saying, right, okay, it's A, B, C, but actually you might get to B and go, actually something's gone wrong here. We need to deviate onto a different path. And having it laid out as that roadmap, I find really helps clients out because, for example, this one where he's purchasing at auction, he's got 28 days to purchase that property. It's not enough time to be messing about thinking about 57 different routes that you can take with it. It's got to be a clear roadmap early doors to say, right, this is how it's going. And if this happens, we go this way. If this happens, we go this way. If this happens, we go that way. And it stops so many headaches and deviations throughout as well. And it just takes that uncertainty away. So I hope that's been helpful. I feel like to a certain degree, I haven't given a huge amount of information, but actually more just a bit of an idea and something that hopefully people can kind of pick up on and use moving forward. So it's not a massively long episode, just something to sort of think about in the back of your mind next time you're kind of looking at a project. But yeah, always keep that in mind in terms of the sequencing, kind of no matter what property or project you're looking at, is how you're going to go through those steps of financing and the costs involved at each step as well. And yeah, just get that roadmap sorted as early as possible. So thank you very much for listening. If you have enjoyed the episode, please like, share, subscribe, do all of that stuff all over social media. But otherwise, we'll catch you on the next one.